What up, everybody? Happy weekend. Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective, episode 99. So the next one is a milestone. And as we talked about, it's next week. So hopefully when we're doing episode 100, John Harbaugh is the coach of the Giants. That would be a great way to celebrate our 100th episode. I can't believe that we've been together for 99 episodes already. It's crazy that this has been going on for like a year and a half. Time really flies. Nothing changes with the Giants, it seems, but time does fly. Do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. It helps the stream out big. Hit the subscribe button. We come in 9 subscribers short of 6,700. So that'd be cool if we could get there tonight. Of course, you can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and of course, Apple. And if you happen to listen to us on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That also helps the show out a lot. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram as well. And the first part of Giants Collective, of course, is brought to you by our friends at SeatGeek. Just because the Giants season's over don't mean there's not tickets on SeatGeek for a lot of other events. There's concerts. There's baseballs coming up. Obviously, if you're into college basketball, you can get there's so many different things available on SeatGeek. And you're still eligible for the 10% discount if you enter the promo code Giants Collective 10 on your tickets. Get that 10% off. Why the hell not? You know, nothing wrong with a little discount this day and age. So do that for us. Big shout out to them for sponsoring this portion of Giants Collective. We'll start with the first thing. Obviously, I didn't know this. I just asked Adriana before we started, but I just found out now because our first order of business is the Dolphins. GM saves the Giants. I said, what is that all about? Well, I guess there was Harbaugh had strong ties to a certain GM. The Dolphins did not go that way, which means Miami may be at a play now. I don't know why he'd go to Miami anyway, if I'm being honest. You got Tua, who people talk about Jackson Dart's concussion issues. Yeah, well, Tua's got the same thing, and he's $50 million a year. They're in cap hell, and they're going in the opposite direction. So I don't know why I'd go there anyway. But Adriana, what are your thoughts on Harbaugh now that the Dolphins have hired their GM, and it's not the guy that he had close ties to?
I was laughing because everyone was like, Harbaugh, he's a lock for Miami. First, now they're interviewing Chad Alexander and it's warm there and he doesn't want state income tax. No one wants state income tax.
That's why I want to move to Florida. What reasons?
Right? Like, that's not the only reason for him to go to Florida. Also, did he tell you that he's, after 18 years in Baltimore, he's done with the 4 seasons and now wants to move to Florida? Like, everyone's just making shit up. I'm like, I hate Twitter right now because it's just a whole lot of bullshit. But I do think that the fact that they didn't hire Chad Alexander, like, I thought for sure the fact that they added him onto that GM list right before Harbaugh gets fired. We hear these reports that there's these teams who haven't fired their coaches yet. At the time, Mike McDaniel was still the head coach. As soon as I started to hear that, I was like, ooh, this could definitely be a problem for the Giants. But now the fact that they didn't hire Alexander and instead they hired someone who has a lot of ties to Green Bay, I think is good news for the Giants. I think when you look at the totality of the Dolphins versus, in my opinion, I think even somewhere like the Raiders is a lot more appealing than the Dolphins because you have the first overall pick. You can get your quarterback if you want it. And everyone knows the quarterback is so important. And if you're John Harbaugh, who's worked with Joe Flacco and worked with Lamar Jackson, I don't really think Tua or Quinn Ewers is all that exciting to you. So I'm sure that that's a big part of it. So I was relieved when I saw that. I think at the end of the day, I don't think anywhere is solidified. I'm sure that he is interested in a lot of different coaching opportunities. I think there's a lot of great options for him. If you're John Harbaugh, you're like, this is amazing. I get to go through all of these different types of teams and who I'm going to work with. He's going to be wined and dined during all these interviews. Like, he's going to be treated like the freaking king. So I think we all have to be patient. I know it's very hard. I already am getting comments from people like, I can't wait this long. This is so stressful, but it is what it is. The Giants are interviewing 12 other candidates, which is great. They're doing an extensive search. And, I hope the rumors are true that he is very interested in the Giants. He likes Jackson Dart, and there are things to like about the team and where they're at right now. So I think it's great news. I feel like the Giants at least still have a chance. I think if the Dolphins hired Alexander, I would have really felt like it was slim to none with that guy being hired. So I like it. I think Jeff Hafley could go there. If Matt LaFleur gets fired, you could be looking at, half of Green Bay going over to the Dolphins now with that GM hiring. So we'll just have to wait and see, which I know is the hardest part, but
yeah,
another
patience is not only we run out. It's not that we are impatient because it's like Christmas. You're anticipating a great gift on Christmas, and of course, we've been a shitty team for a long time, so the fan base overall is incredibly impatient. Anthony, you live in tax-free, warm Florida. Not gonna lie, in January, I'm always jealous of the Floridians. What do you think about John Harbaugh and his chances to go to Miami now that they hired their GM?
Well, I do think the fact that they passed on Chad Alexander is pretty exciting for Giants fans, since that seemed to be what was causing the majority of the anxiety. There was an obvious connecting of the dots. Chad Alexander is a top executive, used to work with John Harbaugh. He currently works with Jim Harbaugh. It would have made a lot of sense if he teamed up with John Harbaugh in Miami. But the fact that that's not the way the Dolphins are going signals to me that they have other plans. I still think they're heavily interested in John Harbaugh, but I would read it as they probably got the memo that John Harbaugh's sights are set elsewhere. And I think John Harbaugh wants the New York Giants. I think they make the most sense for him. I know Jim Harbaugh has spoken highly of the Giants in the past. So has John. I think that this is just an organization that has a pedigree, has a promising young quarterback, has some pieces, and just has an allure that, frankly, not to disrespect them, the Miami Dolphins just don't have. I mean, it's the New York Football Giants. And I think it was Ian O'Connor or Tom Pelissero, I don't remember which one I was watching this morning or listening to while I was working, said that back when Jim Harbaugh had the chance to get the job, or didn't have the chance to get the job, whatever, in 2020 when they hired Judge, he said, would I be interested? It's the New York Football Giants. Of course I would be. And so you would assume, this is what the reporter was saying, John Harbaugh probably feels the same way. And I would assume that too. So I think the Harbaughs really like the Mara family. I think they really like the idea of being involved in the New York Giants organization. And I think the Giants are going to have nobody but themselves to blame if they don't secure a deal here with John Harbaugh, because they're obviously the more attractive option between them and the Miami Dolphins, in my opinion. And I think this is where John Harbaugh wants to be.
Chris, what do you think about the whole situation? Because, yeah, you heard that if, the Dolphins job became available, he'd be very interested. But now that they didn't hire his guy, which I will get into it a little bit later, but I saw something on Twitter. He had a list of demands, and one of them was picking his own GM. Though I don't know if that was because it was a Cleveland reporter that wrote that. So maybe that's just for Cleveland. Maybe Cleveland, he wants $20 million a year in his own GM, and because
he's going to get $20 million a year. You look at the top.
What do you think about the Dolphins? What do you think his chances are going to the Dolphins now that they didn't take Chad Alexander?
I don't think he was going to go to the Dolphins, whether or not they got the general manager. I think that situation is horribly bad. Like when you look at maybe if he would, because I know he's got ties to him, maybe he would have felt comfortable working with him if he was the general manager. And I know that a lot of Giants fans are worried about that. But the Dolphins situation is awful, awful. They have no quarterback situation. Their cap situation is a complete mess. They don't have a draft pick nearly as high as we do. They were talking about trading Jalen Waddle a couple, months ago, and completely blowing that whole team up. So for me, I think the Dolphins are one of the least attractive jobs there is in terms of open head coaching vacancies. So they don't scare me. I honestly don't think they would have scared me if they got that general manager. I was surprised at how many people were panicking when I guess it was the timing of it, right? Like they fired him like 2 or 3 days after the fact. And a lot of people may have felt like maybe that meant something, that Harbaugh was going to come there. So I get it. I guess I get it from that standpoint. But I'll say what I said on Tuesday, or Wednesday rather. The only fear for me in terms of the Giants not getting John Harbaugh is a team that's still playing. Whether it be the Eagles, whether it be the Bills, maybe the Packers. Although I don't think they would fire Matt LaFleur. That to me is my fear in terms of losing John Harbaugh. I don't think any of the teams that currently have a vacancy have near the situation that the New York Giants could offer John Harbaugh at all, to be honest with you. So I'm not scared at all with the teams that currently are looking for a head coach. That may change.
It's funny because people will say, they say this about Mike McCarthy too. And again, McCarthy and Harbaugh's stats are very similar. They win at the same exact rate, 61%. They each have won one Super Bowl. People somehow think that's underachieving. And my argument was always, hey, we have to get to the playoffs. Like we have to learn how to win regular season games. And then if you get into the playoffs a few years in a row and you don't get the job done, then you look to take, find the guy to take the next step, which is, like you said, Chris, what worries me about the Bills, because the Bills are in that exact situation where, they're getting to the division round, they get to the AFC Championship game, but they can't get over the hump. And and you got your quarterback. You're not getting a better quarterback than Josh Allen. And their team isn't really like, they don't have a lot of pieces around Josh Allen. He can just carry. So if you can just get your guy in there and, build around Josh Allen a bit better, and you have a different coach, maybe they can get over the hump. That's a situation I'm looking for the Giants when they say, oh, he doesn't win in the postseason. I don't care about that. I want to get to the postseason first.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know much about that situation. I was on Twitter today for a little bit, but I had got busy at work in the afternoon, and I didn't get on there and didn't really do a lot of searching around. So I didn't realize Miami had hired that coach, but I did hear that was a desirable spot for him. But like you all mentioned, I just don't know what's desirable about you. Don't have a quarterback unless you want to go forward with, you think Quinn Ewers is it, because you can't trade Tua. Like, I always love they're going to trade Tua, and the Eagle fans are like, oh, get Tua as a backup. I'm like, you guys are fucking dumb. I mean, he's $50 million a year. You're going to pay a quarterback $50 million to back up? That's a terrible contract. And Miami's in a terrible cap situation. The Giants are desirable. I mean, again, you are what your record says you are. We competed with the best teams in the NFC this year. We beat the Chargers. We beat the Eagles. We did beat good teams. We should have beat Denver. We didn't compete with New England, but we did compete with a lot of the best teams in the league, and we just couldn't hold lead in the fourth quarter. So it tells you they're close. They just don't know how to win. A guy like John Harbaugh knows how to win. And when you have a top 5 draft pick, and you have an Abdul Carter, and you have a Brian Burns, and you have a Malik Neighbors, and you have a Cam Scatterbo, and you have a Jackson Dart, obviously, there's a lot you can build around there. And I do think it's desirable. This is the biggest media market in the country, New York. You want to be in New York. So, yeah, I don't want to ever get too optimistic about anything the Giants do, because inevitably we always fuck it up. And I really do believe we are the favorite to get him, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, because
as of now,
yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Lose whenever they're playing, tomorrow or Sunday, and they fire McDermott. That changes, obviously. So
hopefully the Bills win. I want the Bills to win the damn Super Bowl anyway. I want Josh Allen to get a ring. Yeah. I think if he can't do it this year, I don't know that he'll ever do it, because you're not facing Lamar. You're not facing Mahomes, who has been his Achilles heel, although it really hasn't been Josh Allen's fault. I remember that one game, the Bills scored like 15 seconds to go, and Shane Bowen it must have been Shane Bowen for the Bills, because remember the Chiefs went like 60 yards in 10 seconds and kicked a field goal. I actually thought Ole Miss was going to do that last night, and I was like, is Shane Bowen calling the defense?
That was a great game last night.
That was a great game. And Jackson Dart was there, which leads me into the next segue. Obviously, it came out on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter. Couldn't really read his lips because there was closed captioning, which is blocking him, but I saw it on a different platform. I guess Dart was asked, and you guys can tell me what you think about this, but they asked Dart, who's going to be your head coach? And supposedly his lips said, I don't know, Harbaugh, Stefanski. Anthony, how much do you think that is true? How much do you think he actually knows?
I don't think he knows anything more than we do, really. Maybe a little bit more, but I mean, come on. It's not like he's in those meetings. It's not like, because let's think about it this way. We look at it as fans as the Giants have a potential franchise quarterback. We're really excited about him. We think he's the future. And the Giants have that optimism as well. They don't know that for a fact. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Like, let's be realistic about it. He's not involved in the decision-making. Head coach. He's going into his second season. So I doubt he knows these things. And I think he was just speculating the same way that we're speculating. If you asked me that question, Bad Dog, what would my answer be? Probably Harbaugh or Stefanski. That's what we're saying right now, because that's what the reports are saying. So I put no stock into that. I think it's interesting. I think it's exciting. Sure, if you want to make it that way, but it doesn't really mean much. But I think actually the more interesting conversation is, all of the reports seem to indicate Stefanski is plan B for the New York Giants. And that seems to be kind of controversial among Giants fans. I'm happy with that. I like Kevin Stefanski, but a lot of fans don't seem to like him. And a lot of fans seem to think they should go in a different direction if they swing and miss on John Harbaugh. But I think Harbaugh's the guy anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. But no, I don't think Jackson Dart knows anything more than we do.
Yeah. What was cool, though, was to see Jackson Dart there. Obviously, he's our quarterback. And, of course, our best quarterback in the history of our franchise, Eli, was also there. And I was pulling for Ole Miss for that reason. I don't have a dog in that fight. But Chris, what do you think about the, I don't know, Harbaugh, Stefanski? I mean, these guys are on social media like we are too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Dart may know a little bit in terms of like who the Giants behind the closed doors are, you know, who they have in terms of their preference, but that doesn't mean that Stefanski and Harbaugh have the Giants as their number one dance partner. I think, like Anthony said, it's pretty clear if you like follow anybody on media right now, any like supposed beat reporter, those seem to be the two names that keep popping up. I know that we're, like Adriana said, we're bringing in a lot of interviews, but those are far and away the two biggest favorites to land the job for the New York Giants. And when you put 2 and 2 together, they're the most desirable job right now. They just are. When you look at the situation the Giants could provide to one of these head coaches in comparison to the majority of the other teams, it's hard to make an argument against the Giants. So with that being said, being that they're the two most desirable coaches, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to realize that likely one of those two guys are going to be the New York Giants head coach. I'd be surprised if it wasn't, due to the fact that I think the Giants are definitely going to go in an opposite direction in which they've gone before in terms of the head coach, like we've discussed for 3 or 4 months leading up into this. When we knew that Dable was going to get fired, we knew that, at least we thought it was very likely they were going to go with a guy with head coaching experience. Those are the 2 out of the 3 names, the other one being McCarthy. So I'm not surprised. And yeah, I don't know if he knows that for a fact, but I mean, I think it's just pretty obvious. I think it's common sense that it looks like one of those 2 guys. I would say there's like a 90% chance one of those 2 guys are going to be the Giants head coach. And I'm leaning strongly it's going to be Harbaugh. But if there's something that comes out like a Buffalo Bills team that fires McDermott and he goes there, I think Stefanski clearly becomes target number 1 for the New York Giants.
So, yeah, obviously the Giants have had a couple of interviews. They interviewed Raheem Morris. They interviewed Antonio Pierce yesterday. At least that was what they're supposed to do. I didn't see anything about it today. But, again, I wasn't on social media today. So, but they are set to do a lot of interviews. They're going to interview Stefanski, I'm sure. They're going to interview McCarthy, I'm sure. I don't know if they have.
They already interviewed Stefanski.
Okay, I didn't even realize. I didn't even know who the hell they've interviewed so far. Is there a date set for Harbaugh or no?
No, sometime next week. Right. I have a list of all the candidates and when, if you're interested.
Yeah, go.
Okay, so ones that have already interviewed so far: Kafka, Stefanski, Pierce, Raheem Morris. This weekend we have Kubiak, Joseph, and Darren Rizzi. Tuesday is Mike McCarthy, and then guys that are in the pipeline: Harbaugh, Davis Webb, Chris Shula, Cliff Kingsbury, Jesse Minter, and that would be 13.
Jeez, lucky number 13.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of, that's another thing. Obviously, so all that's Tuesday. There's a lot going on Tuesday. So Tuesday, that's our show. Tuesday is episode 100. Let's get John Harbaugh in here. A couple other things, man. I don't really know what to say about the interview because I do believe, like you said, Chris, I believe that it's going to be Stefanski or Harbaugh. I don't think there's really or maybe McCarthy. I think if McCarthy has an outside shot,
he's the outsider. Yeah, I think.
And I'd be fine with McCarthy myself. But what do you think about the coordinators? Because again, there's a couple that I don't know much about the defensive coordinators that got let go or defense coordinator, head coaches that got fired that are defensive guys. But there's 2 guys that I saw, obviously they got fired. McDaniel was one of them, which is why, people were concerned about Harbaugh going to Miami. Kingsbury was the other one. Would you be okay if John Harbaugh brought one of those guys in for an offensive coordinator, or would you
of course
have somebody else?
Yeah, now I would think he would bring his guy from Baltimore because I mean he was, like we talked about last show, like he wasn't willing to budge on them there. Why wouldn't he not want to bring him here with the New York Giants? So I think if Harbaugh gets the job, he's probably just bringing his guys here. But if McDaniel is the offensive coordinator, of course, I think he's one of the better offensive minds in the NFL. I wouldn't be dying for him to be the head coach, but I think he's a tremendous offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Audrey, you got any coordinators in mind for the Giants at all?
My dream situation on the offensive side of the ball is either Mike McDaniel or Kubiak, which I know are probably unlikely. That's why I say dream scenario. I would be happy with Kingsbury too. I think he would be a good option. I also think Davis Webb would be a great option too, but I know he's interviewing for the head coach job, which is interesting. And then defensive side of the ball, if we get Stefanski, I would love him to bring in Jim Schwartz. Him obviously having worked with Myles Garrett. I mean, I'm sure he would be salivating to work with Brian Burns and Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence if he doesn't get traded. So I think Schwartz is a great option. Last year, I really loved Mike McDonald. Obviously, that's not happening. I do really like Vance Joseph. The thing is, like a lot of the guys who are like dream coordinators for me, Chris Shula, like they're not making a lateral move to the Giants.
Right.
So that's a big time bummer. But I know there's a lot of conversation around Todd Monken right now. It sounds like there were some issues maybe this year with him and Lamar Jackson, but I think ultimately Todd Monken was a pretty good coordinator for them. Last year, they scored the most amount of points on offense out of every team. They were averaging over 30 points a game, which is something the Giants have probably never done ever. Their running backs average 4.7 yards a carry. I mean, we have two good running backs that I think you're going to be able to utilize together as that dual-headed monster. So I think we're definitely going to have some options. I'm just very curious to see what these guys end up doing, who it ends up being the head coach. It's going to be fascinating.
It is. And like I said, hopefully when we do this show on Tuesday, we'll know, because that'd be great. And just, Adriana, did it have times for when they were, or is it just list them as coming in on Tuesday?
So I know McCarthy is definitely Tuesday, but I saw some of the other ones were over this weekend, which Darren Rizzi, I think, was today. Right. But Harbaugh, all I know is it's sometime next week because he hasn't started at all. So I'm kind of hoping that we get Harbaugh last. I think I was going to make the same point.
I think it would be great to get him last.
He can see everything. We've gotten through the Rooney Rule. At that point, we will have interviewed everyone, because I think there's 4 or 5 candidates that I mentioned that as of right now, I have not seen a schedule for, which is Shula, Kingsbury, Kubiak. I think Vance Joseph is supposed to be this weekend. Maybe Kubiak's supposed to be this weekend. Jesse Minter, I have no idea when that's going to be. But I'm like, if you can schedule those guys so they're all done by like Wednesday or Thursday, you let Harbaugh do everyone else. And then on Friday, he comes in, icing on the cake. Take him around New York, bring him to Fort Charles, bring in Eli, bring in Dart. Do what you got to do. Get it done.
Yeah. Bring in Lawrence Taylor, bring in Phil Sim, bring in all 4 Lombardis. Bring in the clowns. That's all we've been doing all year.
Harbaugh. Make. I agree. Finish with Harbaugh.
Fill out the red carpet.
And I hope Harbaugh makes all his other visits before he comes to the Giants.
No parade.
We know he's coming here.
So. I think what we need to do on Tuesday, or when we find out that Harbaugh is going to be interviewing, we need to do a live stream crowdsourcing. Get enough money to pay for a plane to fly over 1925 Giants Drive when Harbaugh is there. That says, like, we got your back, Harbaugh. Like, the fans love you. Do it.
We'll throw a parade down the Canyon of Heroes. We ain't throw one there, and
we should. Or better yet, we
can just the Giants
with signs.
The Giants are the last New York team to win a damn championship. So we haven't had a parade here. Well, the Liberty, I guess, right? I mean, technically they won one, but that's not one of the major sports. That was always controversial. I put something on Twitter one time, and I didn't mention the soccer leagues or the WNBA. Yeah, that's not true. New York won. I'm like talking major sports. So there's 4 major sports in this country. Or being honest, Anthony, do you have any coordinators in mind that you would like to see be on the sidelines for the Giants next year?
Yeah, I do. Especially, I've been doing a lot of research on guys that could connect with John Harbaugh in particular, because if I'm looking at dream coordinators, I'm looking at the dream head coach. I think Todd Monken's a great coordinator. I know that there's a lot of controversy. I don't think Ravens fans, I think I mentioned this in the last live stream, my closest friend, he's a Ravens fan. He doesn't like Todd Monken, but that's not really because Todd Monken's a bad coordinator. It's because Todd Monken in the playoffs has choked a couple times. It's been his play calling, his decision to get away from the run when they should be running the ball. And, those are issues that you have to worry about when you're hiring Todd Monken. But when you get to the playoffs, you worry about them. And the Giants, like we've said, so far away from being in the playoffs. Just give me a good coordinator. And Todd Monken is a good coordinator. He would fix this offense, I think. And he's done a great job with Lamar Jackson. I think he could get the most out of a young quarterback. Because also, been a head coach at the collegiate level. He does know how to coach collegiate athletes. And I think that's important when you're talking about a young quarterback entering his second season coming out of a SEC school like Ole Miss. So I do like Todd Monken. I think Mike McDaniel makes sense for this Giants team, like perfect sense. I mean, they'll have intense competition for him for sure. He's going to do head coaching interviews. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets a head coaching job. I think he is a good head coach. He's going to be the hottest commodity as an OC if he doesn't get an HC job. But the reason why I think he makes sense under Harbaugh is because if you look at Harbaugh's career history, he pretty much exclusively hires for his OC position former head coaches. The only exception to that rule is Greg Roman. Other than that, if you include the fact that Todd Monken was a former collegiate head coach, all of his or offensive coordinator picks have been former head coaches. So looking at the list, it's like Cam Cameron, Jim Caldwell, Gary Kubiak, Mark Trestman. Everybody has always been a former head coach. So I think Mike McDaniel being the most prominent offensive coordinator / former head coach on the market right now, I think that Harbaugh would pursue him heavily if Todd Monken doesn't follow him, although I expect Todd Monken will. In terms of the defensive coordinator, one name that I do really like going back to Miami and McDaniel's staff is Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver was formerly with the Baltimore Ravens. He was the assistant head coach with the Ravens, also defensive line coach. Everywhere he's gone, he's produced an elite run defense. Now, obviously, they had some struggles this past season in Miami. That defense has no talent on it, and they have a lot of injuries. And he actually stabilized that group. They had a really bad start to the season. And then by midseason, they were playing like a top 15, top 10 unit at times. So Anthony Weaver, perfect match. I think that he would be very happy to work with John Harbaugh again. It's a lateral move for him, but knowing that Miami's making a change at head coach, they'd probably be okay letting Anthony Weaver go and have that interview with the Giants if they hire John Harbaugh. So if the Giants hire Harbaugh, that's my dream staff. Mike McDaniel at OC, and then taking his DC from Miami, Anthony Weaver, and reuniting him with John Harbaugh.
And of course, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement. We would like to keep our own O-line coach in Carmen Brasillo because, I mean, if there's a guy that really stepped it up, it was him. I mean, this offensive line, again, not great, like not elite, but I mean, they were on the top 10 all year. The Giants were one of the best teams, not yards per carry, but they were in the top 5, I believe, in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. And obviously Jackson Dart has something to do with that. But I mean, all your teams that lead the league in rushing touchdowns have quarterbacks that run. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. I mean, they're obviously going to get some of their touchdowns as well. So, I mean, that's obviously a part of the quarterback. And I'm with you. I love Mike McDaniel. Like that'd be the guy that like the dream scenario for me too. I just watched what he did in Miami. They were a really fun team to watch. They have a shitload of team speed. I mean, that's something I think the Giants got to get a little bit better. We don't really have, it doesn't seem like we have a ton of team speed. Jalen Hyatt can run. Unfortunately, that's all he can do. He should just be out there hurdling or running the 200-meter dash because he can't do anything else. He can run straight really fast. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Obviously, the head coach is the most important thing, but I think we know if you get John Harbaugh, you're going to get some pretty damn good coordinators in here. Same thing with Mike McCarthy. His track record speaks for itself. He always hires really good coordinators. So Stefanski, man, I'd kind of be indifferent on him just because you just hear some good things, some bad things. It's kind of a mixed bag, and I don't like he's not stable enough for me. Like I really feel like the Giants just need. I know he won Coach of the Year twice, and that's a really shitty organization, or as bad as we are. And he won Coach of the Year twice. He took him to the playoffs a couple times, which is amazing. But remember, Daboll did that with us too, where he won Coach of the Year and we won a playoff game. I just want. I think Chris might have mentioned it's like a really high floor. That's kind of where I am with our next head coach. Obviously, Harbaugh is the one that I think everybody wants. The Giants fans, we disagree on a lot of things, obviously, which is cool. I mean, it'd be boring if everybody agreed on the same thing. But I don't know that I've run into one Giants fan on Twitter. Now, I don't read everybody that responds to me either.
There's a couple, but
okay. Maybe they're just trolling or they just want to be, contrary.
I'm surprised, even though I obviously, I think it's a slam dunk to go and get Harbaugh. I'm honestly surprised that it's basically, like you said, unanimous. I thought there would be at least a small fraction of Giants fans that would have a different mindset. But like you said, for the most part, it's like 99% John Harbaugh, and that's it. That's all Giants fans.
I don't remember the Giants fan being so in unison over one thing on this team since I've been on social media. So it's, you're talking 10 years there. So I don't remember, but I think he's the odds-on choice for Giants fans, and with good reason. I mean, you hear a guy like that gets fired, you want to suck him up as fast as you can. And the last time we took a retread, that guy won 2 Super Bowls for us. So, and he had an Ole Miss quarterback. I mean, and listen, Chris, I know we do the games together, and I've said this and I'm saying it again. People say the NFL scripted and all this other stuff. I'm like, fine, but one thing I keep saying, one thing I noticed about Jackson Dart, he gets a lot of roughing the passer penalties. You literally could punch Daniel Jones in the jaw and you wouldn't get a flag. You get near Jackson Dart, they throw a flag. And I was like, that's a good sign for us, because it means the NFL is saying, yep, there's a star. So let's protect it. So I like that. So yes, flip this script. Let's win some fucking games next year. Let's at this time next year, the Friday before wildcard weekend or the playoffs, let's be talking about our first round matchup. Can we agree on that, Giants fans?
If we get Harbaugh, that's going to be my expectation.
Wouldn't that be amazing if we were sitting here right now talking about playing in the playoffs? How much fun would that be?
That's what Abdul Carter said. His post-game speech said, this is not good enough. We should be preparing for our next game and we should be playing more football. And I love that he took accountability and said, that's on me. I need to do better, but we all need to do better. Yeah. And for a young guy, I'm like, oh, I just love Abdul Carter.
He really turned it around.
Player of the year next year.
He woke up. Something happened. I don't know if it was the talk from LT or what it was, that all of a sudden it's like he woke up and he gets it. I got to work. And you saw how great he was at the end of the year. Now it's an outside shot, but it's possible the Giants end up with the offensive defensive rookie of the year in a 4-win season, which is pretty crazy to think about it. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's always bias against New York when it comes to awards. Nobody ever wants to vote for New York players.
I don't get why Jackson Dart he's not going to win it. When you look at the polling and what everybody's saying, like they're acting like he's not even a threat to win it. Like he had a great statistical year.
And think about he had like 4 touchdowns dropped, and he had a couple other touchdowns that were called back because of a bullshit offensive pass interference. He literally could have had 30 touchdowns this year. Yeah, in 13 games.
And it's not like the kid. The kid from he went to Arizona in college. The guy out in Carolina. He's pretty much like the unanimous rookie of the year. He barely cracked.
McMillan.
Yeah, McMillan.
Yeah, McMillan.
He barely cracked 1,000 yards. It's like I'm surprised that.
Dale cracked 1,000 yards. I mean, what are we talking about here? Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
He had a good rookie year, but I don't know. I feel like
usually they give it to the quarterback. Yeah. But we'll see how it goes. That brings us to the end of the first portion of Giants Collective. Again, give a big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this portion of the show. Just because football season's over doesn't mean there's not a lot of other things that you can get tickets for on SeatGeek. Like I said, baseball season's coming up. There's college basketball. There's the NFL playoffs. If your team is in the playoffs, there's a lot of things. There's NBA basketball. There's hockey. There's all kinds of stuff you can get at SeatGeek. And if you're going to use SeatGeek, make sure you use the promo code Giants Collective 10 to get 10% off of your tickets. The Q&A portion of Giants Collective, of course, is brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. Check out Sleeper. It's the fastest growing app out there. Almost 11 million people use the Sleeper app. You can play daily fantasy contests. You can check scores in live time. You can connect with other sports fans and do a whole lot of stuff on Sleeper. It is a lot of fun. It is a great app. And check it out. You can click the link in the description. Use the promo code HMA to get all your promotions there. So make sure you take advantage of that promo code HMA. Let's get to the chat really quick. David, thank you, buddy. He says, bring us Harbaugh. Bad Dog, do you like my photo? Ravishing Rick Rude. We need to get the Giants to become ravishing. What I'd like to have right now is for all you fat, out of shape YouTube yahoos, keep the noise down while I take my robe off and give the ladies a look at the sexiest man alive. You're all too young to remember Rick Rude, but I
remember Rick Rude.
Rick Rude was the man. That was my guy. I love Rick Rude. But I agree. The Giants need to become ravishing, without question. We have been a turd. We've been one of the sweat hogs, And now it is time to become ravishing, like Rick Rude. I've been in the gym for almost 16 years. I'll never get that physique, not even friggin' close. That guy was genetically gifted. That was always my dream in the gym, was like, if I get built like Rick Rude. Never, ever, ever, ever gonna happen. Not in this lifetime. Then again, very few people ever be built like that guy. That guy was a shit brick house, without question. David, thank you again, man. He says, if Harbaugh tells the Giants that he wants his own GM, does ownership have the balls to fire Shane? Did you see his demand? Yeah, I talked about that a little bit earlier. Do you guys think that that's just a Cleveland thing, or do you think that that's like a real thing?
I think the first two are common sense things. Like the first one was $20 million. That he's getting that. Like
$10 million for a staff
and $10 million for his assistants. Like, yeah, if you get a good offensive coordinator, he's going to cost you $3 to $4 million. Same on the defensive side of the ball. So those two are givens. If you're getting Harbaugh, that's what that's going to cost. And then the other two were basically that he wanted say in all personnel decisions. Yeah, I think that's going to happen if you bring in John Harbaugh. He's going to, at a bare minimum, at least be collaborative with every decision that they make in terms of the draft, free agency, things like that. But I don't think it was much different with Brian Daboll, if I'm being honest. And then the other one was, I think he wants to be able to pick the general manager. Did they say?
Yeah, that was the other thing.
At the end of the day, if that's what it comes down to, which I don't think it will, I think he's going to be fine working with Shane for a year, and they're going to take it from there and see where it goes. But if it came down to that, you fire Shane in a second. You get rid of Shane, and you bring in a different GM that Harbaugh wants to work with.
Chad Alexander.
Yeah, you definitely 100% do that. You don't let Joe Shane prevent you from getting John Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mentioned this last stream, and I was very concerned about having a lame duck GM with a head coach. But when you get John Harbaugh, that rule doesn't apply to him, because a new GM ain't going to go, yeah, get rid of that guy because he stinks. John Harbaugh's record speaks for itself. I think if you hired a coordinator and Joe Shane was, a lame duck GM and they won 5 games and he got fired, I think then the coordinator, the head coach is going to go and we're going to start all over again. So, like I said, John Harbaugh would bring some stability to a team that has not been stable. And credit to John Mara for being patient. I mean, we saw, McAdoo made the playoffs his first year, lost the second year, and he was out. Pat Shermer won 9 games in 2 years. He was out. Joe Judge won 10 games in 2 years. He was out. They gave Daboll 3.5 years, and each year he got progressively worse, and they went as long as they could without letting him go. It also said, or at least I read somewhere, that Brian Daboll, from what I understand, has been tugging up that Giants head coaching spot. There's no ill will. Joe Shane didn't fire him, supposedly. The ownership fired him. But what do you guys think about that? That Brian Daboll is not like saying, oh, that's a shitty job. You don't want to work for the Mara family. You don't want to work for the Giants. He's actually been saying you want to go to the Giants.
I mean, I think Daboll knows that he just didn't perform well enough. He probably by the end of it realized I'm a little bit in over my head. I made some serious mistakes and I haven't recovered from them. And from what I read in that report, it's been Daboll raving about Jackson Dart. That's what he's been telling people. Anybody who's asked him, he's been saying, you will love to coach Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's amazing. He's basically been telling people take the job because of Jackson Dart. Now, obviously, he's also, the report said, praised ownership, praised management. He's had nothing but good things to say about the Giants, but honestly, that's expected. They are a respected organization. They are, a top-class organization, and I think that they did right by Daboll. They gave him a lot of time. They were super patient with him. He just didn't perform well enough, and I think he's aware of that, and he used to say that all the time in his press conferences. I'm not doing well enough. I need to do better. He was always well aware that he was on thin ice, but he knew that he wasn't performing well enough, so I think he's just realistic about it, but he loves Jackson Dart. He thinks Jackson Dart is going to be a star. And so anybody who asks him about it, he's going to tell them Jackson Dart's going to be a star. So you're going to want to take that job.
Did anybody? So I'm guessing you all watched the college playoff game last night.
Yes.
Anybody have PTSD seeing Joe Judge on the sideline? I saw Joe Judge.
I don't hate Joe Judge. I always thought he got a raw deal with the Giants. Not that I was upset when we fired him. I thought they needed to fire him because it was going to prevent you from bringing in the best general manager you possibly could. But I thought Joe Judge kind of got a raw deal. He never really got a real fair opportunity with the New York Giants. So I never hated Joe Judge. I knew it was obvious we needed to fire him, but I hope he gets another opportunity down the line.
I don't think I hated him either. I actually really liked him the first year, but I think the second year again, it looked like a guy that was in over his head.
Yeah.
And the back-to-back quarterback sneak thing, I mean, the game didn't mean shit. It didn't matter, but it was just such a poor look. And it's just something you'll never forget if you witnessed it, is what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah.
But I always say my best content came in 2021. I tore him to shreds. Like, I didn't even think I hated Joe Judge. I think I just enjoyed making fun of him. I think that's really what it was, because again, and it's not just Joe Judge. We are Brian Dable. These coaches say the same shit every press conference. Got to look at the tape. It's not good enough. I got to do better. We got to do better. Well, I mean, no shit. I mean, you're losing games. It's obvious that it ain't good enough. But I still was rooting for Ole Miss. It didn't matter. Like you said, I don't hate Joe Judge. I actually like Brian Dable, but just didn't win. You can't keep coaches here because you like them. It's a business.
Yeah.
I never liked Pat Shurmur. That's not like I hated the guy. I just didn't want him to ever be the coach of the Giants. Just let's get Harbaugh in here so we know what we're getting. We really need a guy like that. I mean, just the Giants have to they got to get a guy that knows how to win at the NFL level, that we know knows how to win at the NFL level. And speaking of Joe Judge and his fantastic offensive coordinator, Dr. Garrett, thank you so much. He says, roses are red, violets are blue. We get John Harbaugh, Joe Shane can be through. Fuck Joe Shane. Love you guys and gal. Long live the Trump dog. Yes, of course, I always said the Trump dog. He's always so funny. Just don't worry about it. We're going to get John Harbaugh. He's going to be fantastic. He's going to be a big, very big league coach here. Great time, John Harbaugh. What a coach. Great person. He's Trump dog's always there. But thank you, Dr. Garrett. Appreciate it very much. Astroglide. Thank you. He says, I appreciate all you guys, but I have zero hope for 2026. Me too. I expect to find a way to be just as bad, and we'll be talking about the same things.
I mean, we can't blame you for feeling that way. It's been every year that we feel like we have some hope. The team disappoints us. I will be optimistic, probably stupidly, but I will be optimistic going into 26 if we get John Harbaugh. I think that's I think I will be more optimistic about this team than I've been since Tom Coughlin was the head coach if we get John Harbaugh. I think he's that big of a difference maker. So that's just my opinion on the matter, but I'm a big Harbaugh guy. What
if they land Stefanski? What's your level of optimism then?
I'm wait and see. I definitely think he's got potential. The two Coach of the Year awards, but at the end of the day, I don't think he brings the experience that a guy like a John Harbaugh brings in terms of being able to run an organization, and he hasn't demonstrated, the building of a coaching staff. So I think he's a guy that you may hit a home run with, but it's a wait and see for me. With Harbaugh, I know what I got. I know I got a Hall of Fame head coach that could turn this team around real quick, like a Mike Vrabel did for the New England Patriots.
Yeah. Let me play devil's advocate here because we all clearly love John Harbaugh. We want John Harbaugh, but we don't talk a lot about the potential negatives. What some of the, there's a very small minority of Giants fans that actually don't want John Harbaugh. So let's give them the light of day for just a second. Any fears from anybody that it could be a Pete Carroll? That's what I see people say online. Any fears about, hey, listen, he was fired for a reason. Things did go south to some extent in Baltimore. What are some of the concerns that any of us maybe do have about John Harbaugh if he's the next head coach of the Giants?
I don't look at it as – I think Pete Carroll just went to – number one, Pete Carroll is 10 years older than John Harbaugh. You take that for what it's worth. But the Raiders – that organization is shit. I mean, it's terrible. They're worse than us. They didn't even need to tank. They could have played Max Crosby. They could have played Brock Bowers. We probably still would have beat them. That organization is lost. So Pete Carroll went into a really bad situation. I don't even know if John Harbaugh could have turned them around. I mean, the Raiders, I think, are just an awful situation.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, I think the Giants are a much better landing spot. I'm not saying Pete Carroll would come here and win, but You're right, Anthony. It's a good comparison because Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl, played into, coached in 2 Super Bowls, had a great record with Seattle. He's very well respected. But I've never liked Pete Carroll because of the USC shit. I've never liked him, but he is a great coach. I just think the Raiders that was a hopeless situation for whoever got that job. So I think if Pete Carroll went somewhere else with a team that might actually be decent, I'm not saying that they'd go to the Super Bowl or anything, but I think he could turn the team around. But Harbaugh being 10 years younger and going to a better situation than what Carroll went to, I guess that's where I would be with why I'm more confident.
There's no guarantee it could blow up in our face, but you could say that about any head coach that the New York Giants bring in here. I just think Harbaugh is by far the safest, and I think he has probably the highest ceiling because I think he's been there before. He's won a Super Bowl. Why can't he do it again? If he's still got at least a good 8 to 10 years in the league as a head coach. That's an eternity in the NFL. So I just think he's by far the best candidate. Doesn't mean it'll work out, but I think he's the safest choice and by far the best one.
Yeah. Adriana, you got anything to add?
I also think, I don't know if Pete Carroll's son was the offensive line coach for the Seahawks for all those years. I have to assume that he was not. But I think we talked about this the other night, that there was that report that came out that said that Pete Carroll's son as the offensive line coach was not listening and obviously going about things the wrong way. And then you had the front office bringing in Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers on how they wanted the offensive line to block because they weren't blocking correctly. Right. So I think that was probably a big part of it too. They lost Jermaine Illuminor. I don't know if they lost any other offensive linemen, but I think the way it sounds like the way that he went about coaching also from Seattle to the Raiders was different. He brought in his son, which obviously did not go well.
Nepotism never works.
No, it's just such a cluster. And then I saw some stat I was watching some breakdown of their offense and talking about how the Raiders offense play calling, like that was really bad. The offensive coordinator is a cluster. So I don't know. Sometimes I think certain people, it's just time to retire and you got to call it a day. But I think that Harbaugh has something left in him. I also think that the Giants roster is more talented than the Raiders. And we all know what it's like when you don't have an offensive line that's functional and the quarterback takes a massive step back, nothing good is going to happen, even if you have potentially a decent coach.
Right.
Yeah. I would equate it more to, I think there's a better chance it'll be similar to what Sean Payton did with the Broncos than what, if we were to get a guy like Harbaugh. Like I think he would turn the Giants very quickly the way that Peyton's been able to do with the Denver Broncos. I would anticipate it would be that's more likely than a failure like Pete Carroll. But anything could happen, and we're the Giants, and we find ways to screw everything up. So I'm not ruling anything out. I just think he's by far the best choice.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was playing devil's advocate, so of course I'm all in on John Harbaugh. But I just thought it'd be, good practice to kind of look at what the negatives could be. Obviously, the Pete Carroll comparison is one thing, but I would also say the underperformances in the playoffs. Everybody loves to hold that over Mike McCarthy's head. They're not really holding it over John Harbaugh's head the same way. And I do find that a little bit interesting as well. I mean, that Ravens team should have won a Super Bowl in the past few years, like without a doubt. And I don't blame John Harbaugh directly for the fact that they haven't, but some Ravens fans do. And that's why he's no longer coaching the Ravens. So I do find it interesting. Nobody points towards John Harbaugh for that, but they do hold that over McCarthy's head.
I think McCarthy's judged more harshly than he should be. When it comes to not doing well in the playoffs. I'm not saying there's no legitimacy to that, but I think people put too much. They don't give him any credit for what he did in Green Bay. They say it was all Aaron Rodgers. That's not fair. The guy was the head coach there for the entire time. He built, he was a big part of the building of that organization while Rodgers was there. So, and we've all seen with our quarterbacks, our young quarterbacks, how important coaching is. I think people are too harsh on McCarthy. It's why I have him as my second favorite head coaching candidate. I think he'd be a good choice, but I still have Harbaugh above him.
I agree. It is weird how, like I mentioned it a couple of times now, that they have like the same winning percentage, 61%. They've each won a Super Bowl, and they've each been criticized because they've only won one Super Bowl. But I mean, you guys know, that was my guy until Harbaugh got fired. And I think it's just because I just feel like Harbaugh coached last year. McCarthy's had a couple of jobs, not that he did poorly in Dallas. Like I said, give me 12 wins 3 years in a row. I'd be thrilled with that. And I'm not down on Mike McCarthy at all. He's just, he's not the sexiest pick. But I understand they both have the same resume. For some reason, I just like Harbaugh better. Maybe it's because he didn't coach Dallas. Maybe there's some bias there. I don't know. I like Mike McCarthy a lot.
Yeah, he did it with Flacco, though. I think that's the thing, right? He won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. The other guy did it with arguably the most talented quarterback in the history of the NFL. So that's where I think people, where they prefer Harbaugh to McCarthy. I think that's a big reason.
I like him both.
It's also that Flacco, I think, was there for 18 seasons. I mean, they've both coached the same amount of time, 18 seasons, but that was 2 stints with McCarthy. He was with 2 different organizations. It's the fact that that Ravens team that we've all watched the last 2 decades was built by John Harbaugh. I think that's really the big selling point. That's why I'm such a fan of him for the Giants. He's a program builder. And like I said in the last stream, that's what I was banging the table for last offseason. And now we've actually got a chance to get it. So I'm over the moon about the potential of Harbaugh. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was good practice to try and find any of the red flags that we could find. I think the playoff performances, that's one. Pete Carroll's comparison. If there's anything else you guys can think of, I don't know. There's really not a lot of them.
Not many.
It's kind of hard to find. I mean, he's John Harbaugh at the end of the day.
He's a Hall of Fame coach.
He's a Hall of Famer.
That's why he's such a popular choice. It is hard to find negatives when it comes to John Harbaugh. And again, you can sit there and go, he's only won 1 Super Bowl, but I'll just keep saying, and you got to crawl before you can walk, and you got to walk before you can run. We're picking top 5 every year. I want to be, like I said, I want to be doing this show at this time next year, talking about our playoff opponent, not about drafting top 5 and picking a head coach and firing our GM and all this other shit. I want to be talking about winning. And I think John Harbaugh is the best option for that.
We should be planning our trip to postseason games. Yeah. That's what we should be doing on this show next year.
Sublight's comment. Anthony said he's a program builder, and Sublight said McCarthy's a menu builder. I couldn't help that.
Dude, some people had some really good jokes in the chat about Mike McCarthy. I was laughing earlier at one. Somebody said
Andy Reid's a menu builder too. I would take Andy Reid in a second, but he could build a menu.
Oh God, Andy Reid. I used to make fun of Andy Reid all the damn time, and I love Andy Reid, but I couldn't help myself. I'm like, same thing. That's what I always say. He looks like the Kool-Aid Man when he was wearing that Chiefs. Oh yeah. Again, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the Kool-Aid Man.
Of course,
old. But I'd always mess around with Andy Reid. He's a 300-pound man, Chris, and I would. You get a 300-pound man like that coaching your team. That's fine.
Stick him on the line if you need to.
One of the greatest coaches in the history of football, without question. And again, he never won anything in Philadelphia. He kept choking. Didn't stop Kansas City from going out there and taking Andy Reid as soon as they could. And look at what he did. So, and that's because he had a really good young quarterback. I'm not saying Jackson Arts Mahomes, but he's better than what we've had here in a long time. Yeah, he can definitely play at this level. Yankee Boy Fly, thank you so much. What is your opinion of LaFleur?
Oh, I'd love it. If the Packers, I mean, I'd still slightly prefer Harbaugh, but LaFleur is great. If the Packers ever fired him, do what you got to do to get him with the New York Giants. So, I would love it. I still don't think the Packers are going to fire him.
I can't see them firing him either.
Yeah.
Crazy stat. I don't know if you guys saw this. LaFleur is the oldest coach in the playoffs on the NFC side.
Holy crap. He's
older than Sirianni?
Wow. Yeah.
How old is he? What is he, like 47?
And Shanahan?
I think he's 47. Yeah, I think that was the stat that I saw.
47?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Damn.
Crazy.
Damn, I thought he was like
in the
38.
AFC. Yeah, in the AFC, obviously there's
LaFleur's been coaching
Sean Payton and some others, but
down there, right?
I know he looks so young though.
For the 2 or 3 MVP with Aaron Rodgers at the end. So he's been there for at least 5 or 6 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy though. But it goes to show you that obviously young coaches are up and coming, and I get it, but we need stability here. We need a guy that, like you said, Anthony, to build the program, because we haven't built shit. And every time it looks like we're gonna build something, you pull a piece out of the bottom of the Jenga and it falls apart. That's what we've been here for 10, 12 years. Andy, thank you so much. He says, I agree. Harbaugh is a good choice, but thought he was considering Miami. And we discussed that at the beginning of the show. He really liked the GM, and Miami went in a different direction. Miami's situation isn't as good as the Giants outside of the warm weather and no state tax, this is why New Yorkers move to Florida. I say it all the time. You work for the state of New York and you take your pension and you go down there and it's not taxed and there's no winter. And that's why New Yorkers move there. That's why there's so many New Yorkers in Florida.
If his number one priority is warm weather, he should I'm just saying he should just stay.
That's what I'm saying. That Miami, other than that, the team is in turmoil. He's got a $50 million quarterback that can't stay on the field. You got a 7th round quarterback that is probably going to be your starter if it's not Tua there, and cap hell, and they kind of have no direction. One thing I think the Giants actually do have is a direction. So,
especially if we get Harbaugh.
Yeah. But I think that the Giants are more desirable spot for him.
Yeah, sure.
Bam, bam. Thank you so much. Any concerns on the reports Neighbors won't be ready till midseason? Does it make draft the wide receiver at 5 that much more important?
If it's true, yeah. I think you prioritize wide receiver. I mean, it's already prioritized because your receiving core is an injured Malik Neighbors, regardless of when he's going to be ready. Plus, Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a free agent. Plus, Darius, feet for hands, Slayton. So it's already a priority. You have to go with a wide receiver, either big investment in free agency or early in this draft, regardless.
Yeah. Even if Neighbors was coming back, like you said, they have a clear need for a wide receiver 1A. We talked about that even before Neighbors got hurt going into the year, that we thought they were going to have to prioritize getting a legitimate 1A receiver opposite Neighbors the following offseason, because you want to be able to maximize Jackson Dart while he's in his rookie contract. So regardless of what the reports are with Neighbors, I think the Giants need to prioritize that position in one way, shape, or form. It doesn't necessarily have to be with their first round pick. It could be free agency. It could be a trade. But yeah, they're going to have to upgrade that position for sure this offseason.
Yeah, I think regardless of Neighbors, I don't think they're getting Wan'Dale back. So, I mean, you're going to rely on Gunner to be your slot receiver, which,
no.
I mean, he's fine, but I don't want him being the starting slot all year. And then you're running it back with Neighbors and Slayton. And if Neighbors isn't ready, you have to bring someone in regardless. I would say at the very least 2. If they don't get one in free agency, then get 2 in the draft, or, bring in some UDFAs this summer. But there needs to be competition at the wide receiver position that does not revolve around Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton.
Yeah, you can't go into the year with Gunner as your slot and Hodgins and Slayton as your wide receivers. That's a recipe for disaster. So, yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think Arvell Reese is getting past Arizona anyway. I'll be shocked if that happens. Caleb Downs is the one defensive name that pops up a lot. But, yeah, I think Jordan Tyson or Cardinal Tate, I think it's got to be that. I think you have got to get your rookie quarterback another legitimate wide receiver. It'll only make that offense a lot better. And you would just hope that with a new defensive coordinator, you will get the Pulse and the Debo and the Javon Holland that you thought you were going to get. Drew Phillips obviously is a pretty good tackler. You would hope with coaching, Tyler Nubin will be a lot better than he is. And then, of course, the front four speaks for itself. We definitely could use some linebacker help. I don't think there's a question about that. But I just feel like, again, if your offense isn't doing shit, no matter how good your defense is, if your offense is constantly going 3 and out because there's nobody to throw the ball to. So I think wide receiver is incredibly important. David, thank you, says, Bad Dog, if we hire Harbaugh, you should play Simply Ravishing like Pete does at NYYU. I don't even know what that is. Is it the Swivel the Hips song or whatever? I don't even know, but yeah, Rick Rude is the I know Pete likes him as well, man, but no question. But I've always been a big Rick Rude fan without question. Should have held the strap, and he should have went into the Hall of Fame before he died. Of course, he died early. Most wrestlers from the 80s did. But yeah, that'd be awesome if we got John Harbaugh. Maybe I'll just play Celebrate by Kool and the Gang. I don't know. It'd be nice. Like I said, it'd be a perfect way to celebrate the 100th episode of Giants Collective. I think that'd be
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen that early. I think it's going to go probably.
so 101.
Yeah, I'm going 102. I think it's going to go into the following weekend with Harbaugh. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they'll do it quick.
Just get it over with. Can't we just get it over with? Can't they just interview him Tuesday?
Partly though, once it, like Adriana was saying earlier, I almost want it to be at the end. Like I want him to go to all his other stops before, and I want him to just be his last stop and be like, yeah, this is where I'm starting. I don't want him to speak to another team after he speaks to the Giants. Get the deal done right then and there. Boom, you're the Giants head coach. Get your Miami visit out of the way. Get whatever other teams you're contemplating potentially going to, get it out of the way, and then let the Giants seal the deal.
I think by the time Monday rolls around, we'll start hearing about his schedule for interviews, and I think that'll give us a much better idea of when we're going to have some sort of answer. The only thing that I'm afraid of is that I have to assume that he's going to interview with all 6 openings. So you're talking about him having to go to a different place every day because they're all going to be in person. Or do they start with Zooms and then the next step is the in-person? Like, then what if it bleeds into next weekend and Sean McDermott gets fired next weekend? Like, that's what I'm worried about. I feel like this could get dragged out. And I'm like, please just don't put us through that.
Yeah, and well, yeah, that I agree. I want them to have the interview before the next playoff round. So yeah, hopefully Friday of next week at the latest. You get the interview done, but we'll see. I don't think there's very many serious contenders right now. I think it's really just the Giants and I guess Miami. You want to argue the Falcons?
There's no situation with no quarterback. I mean, exactly. I love Penix. I loved him, but he's had 3 knee injuries now, and like I said, he's 25.
Can the Raiders really go? Can the Raiders really go that same exact route they just went with Pete Carroll? I don't think so. I think they go opposite of that, right? I think they go young and up and coming.
Do you think they're not? You think they won't interview Harbaugh at all?
I'm not saying they won't interview him. I just don't think they're going to go that route. I don't think he would want that job anyway. But we'll see. We'll see.
The reason to me why I think the Raiders could be interesting for him is you have the first overall pick, so you can get Fernando Mendoza or possibly more if you believe in any one of those guys being your quarterback. They have $100 million in cap space, which they're not going to bring back Jermaine Illuminor, I don't think, but they're going to have money to spend on the offensive line, which is the biggest problem that they're going to have. And I think with that money, with the first pick, with some other draft picks, you have Bowers, you have Crosby, you have Ashton Genty. Like I think I wouldn't rule it out because I think there are some more positives than maybe you might think about the Raiders. The biggest question, and if he likes Tom Brady, you get to work with Tom Brady. The biggest thing that I have is like, does he really want to live in Las Vegas? Does he think that the Raiders can turn it around? And is Mark, whatever his name is the owner? Is he going to be a problem?
No.
Like, does he want to work with him? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know either. Corp, thank you. Could Jim Harbaugh hire top whomever our entire 26 draft?
Could a JH hire top?
Could a Jim Harbaugh hire top whomever our entire 26 draft? If you're asking, I don't know if this is your question, but if what you're trying to say is, would hiring Jim Harbaugh be more impactful than anyone we would draft in the 2026 draft? If that's what your question is, my answer is 100% yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
100% yes.
Yeah. I mean, ad nauseum this year, we've spoke about how much coaching matters.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a better coach than John Harbaugh. It's not going to happen. So Giants have got to make that happen without question. With that said, that brings us to the close of the 99th episode of Giants Collective. As always, we appreciate you guys and girls tuning in. If you haven't done so, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. It helps. Don't forget to subscribe and get us up to 6,700 subscribers. Check us out wherever you get your podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and of course, Apple. If you listen to us on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That would help us out as well. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram. And as always, a big shout out to our sponsors at Sleeper and SeatGeek for sponsoring Giants Collective. So we're going to get out of here, let you watch the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft go at it. It's 7-7 right now with 7-11 to go in the first quarter. Mendoza and Moore are going to be a Raider and a Jet, I would imagine, but you never know what the hell goes on. But we'll let you guys get to the game. We're all Johnny Anthony and Entertainah. It's the Bad Diggy Dizzle. We out. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week. Hopefully Harbaugh's a coach.
Fingers crossed.
Harbaugh, bring him home.